Hi, it's Rob from the Brush and Boltgun. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to paint up model battle damage. Now this is a follow-on from the battle damage video that I did a few weeks ago, so I'm going to link that here so you can watch that if you haven't seen it already, and then we can move on to this one and how to paint it up. Okay, so the first colour that we're going to use on this is Vallejo Model Air Chrome, but any metallic will do that you want to use for the inside of the battle damage. And all you're going to do is paint each of the little bullet holes or scrapes on the armour with the Model Air Chrome. As I say, this is a follow-on to the battle damage video, which is how to put the battle damage onto your miniature. So I'll link that up here so that you can go and watch that one if you haven't seen it already, because it shows you how to do all the detailing that's going on here. Then this is how to paint up that specific battle damage. I will be doing a couple of different videos on battle damage of how to just paint it on rather than carving up your miniatures, because you don't really need to do that. But this is how to paint up the battle damage from the previous video. You just want to get a nice layer of the silver inside all those scrapes and bullet holes. And once you've done that, you want to use a little bit of Citadel Nuln Oil, and you're just going to go over them to dull down those sections a little bit, make them a little bit more dirty so there's a bit of carbonizing on there. Now there's a little bit of the Nuln Oil going onto the backpack here because this is part of the Marines Errant video, but we want to be getting a little bit of Nuln Oil into all these scrapes and chafes and bullet holes just to dull them down so that you can see the detail within them. Like so. Next up, we're going to use a little bit of the armour colour. Now for this guy, it's going to be a very, very light blue, and all we're doing is we're putting a really small highlight underneath the battle damage. So if you've got a circular crater on it, you're going to be doing like a little half circle underneath it, which is going to be as though the light is catching the ridge of the paint on the armour. Much like you do a highlight like I was just doing there, one of the details on the armour trim itself. So you want to try and get the light blue just on the underside sections, and you want to try and get it as thin as possible on those areas. This is using an Army Painter Wargamer character brush to apply this. As I say, I will show you how to paint up the battle damage, just painting it rather than sculpting it onto the miniature. It's a very, very similar process and it gets very similar results, but you don't have to use a craft knife or a pin vise to mark the bullet holes in it, or the scrapes and cuts. I suppose this is most like an edge highlight that you'd be doing when we're doing the highlighting of the armour. So you'd be highlighting the top edges of things where the light would catch it, and that's the effect that you want to be going for when you're doing these really thin lines underneath the battle damage, is you're just highlighting that edge, not so it's touching the silver, you want a little bit of a gap so that it looks like there's the colour of the paint on the armour, then there's that ridge where the paint finishes, then you've got like maybe a little bit of black or a bit of a shade, and then you've got a bit of the silver inside the bullet markings and that. Like so. So next up, we're going to use a tiny little bit of Vallejo Model Air Chrome. We're just going to touch up some of the areas in each of these bullet holes and the scrapes, just to add a little bit of a silver there, maybe a little bit to the edges, or if you've got any areas inside that you want to highlight so you can see the extra little crescent inside the larger bullet area there, and little details inside these bits. Then just add a little bit of silver back in there, just to add a bit of the shine so it stands out a little bit. Now we can move on to the next colour. So what we're going to be doing now is using Citadel Nuln Oil, and then moving on to a little bit of Citadel Agrax Earthshade shortly. But for the Nuln Oil, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to paint on the kind of blast damage that you get from maybe a bolt shell hitting that. So what I was doing when I was looking at these and how to do these, I was looking at the damage that RPGs cause when they hit walls and when they hit sort of armour and things like that. And what tends to happen is you'll get the actual central blast where you've got the pockmark or the damage. Then there'll be, it appears to be like a little ring of untouched sort of armour or paint maybe on the wall, and then you'll have the blast just slightly set back from that. Now that's from looking at pictures on sort of Google image searches and things like that for RPG blasts. So, you know, obviously every blast isn't going to be the same, but that's the kind of effect that I'm trying to go for here. It's quite important to try and get the blast so that each of the lines and the areas that you're painting on goes straight to the centre. Because if you get it so that they're not going straight to the centre, it does make the blast look lopsided, as though it's been squashed a little bit. Hard to describe, but it makes it look like the blast marks are leaning over, so you do want them all to go straight to the centre, as that's where the impact will be, and then everything would fly out from that point. This section goes on in total for about 8 minutes, so I think you've probably got about another 5 minutes of this. So if you want to put some musical tunes on, I'll probably not be talking that much through it, because we're just going to be doing more scoring on this one, and then we're going to be working on some of the blast marks on his leg and I think his other shoulder. A little bit off camera there. So as you can see, it's very similar to what we did on the other side. We're trying to leave a little bit of the paint around the edge of the battle damage. Also adding a little bit to the sides of the pauldron where the pauldron has the ridge, because that would catch more of the carbon and more of the scorching from the blast. And here I'm trying to do this one a little bit different, because it's the way I've tried to do it is as though it's an impact of a shot, which is kind of glancing blow off his helmet and bounced off. So I'm trying to do the scorching as though it's coming away from where it's glanced off. I'm just moving that away from the initial impact and across the side of his head. So I hope you can see what I've been trying to do when I've been painting this on. Next battle damage video I'll be doing is just painting the damage on completely, so I'll be like sponging on a bit of a darker colour, using a bit of silver to highlight the underside, or to show where the paint's been completely taken off the miniature. And then we'll be using the same technique, using a little highlight to give that the 3D look. And you can get a really good look from it, even if you just paint it on. You don't have to model the damage onto it. Obviously the difference being the damage is physically here on this, so if ever he gets repainted, whatever the miniature is always going to have the damage on it. Whereas if you paint it on and you want to repaint the miniature, then you can just repaint it. You don't have to worry about doing the damage again and doing the blast marks or anything like that. It's just going to be literally the paint that you put on the miniature. See, when you're painting these on, it shows up quite well on the white paint. If you're doing a darker paint, you might have to put a few layers of the Nuln Oil on just to get that dark enough to be seen. That's not too much of a worry. Next up, we're going to be using Citadel Agrax Earthshade. This is just to go over where we've done some of the blasts, to add a little tiny bit of a brown tint to the carbon and the scorching. Again, you're trying to leave a little bit of the paint around the edge of the blast mark, and then maybe doing the scorching a little bit further away from that. This is generally how to do any kind of battle damage onto the miniatures. A little bit too much going on there. You just take a little bit of that off with the brush if you want to. I've I've left that on there as it does just darken up that blast mark a little bit more. It saves having to put on the second coat. You just want to make sure that you're not blobbing that on so that when it dries it doesn't just look like a blob of paint left on there. Like so. And that is the finished battle damage on this miniature. That's the same spin round as the end of the Marines Errant video, but it does allow you to see all of the battle damage that's been put onto him. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. Also, think about subscribing to some of our other social media, linked below. Thanks very much.